This is the year. You had a good draft. You made a big trade. You patched a few holes. You're looking for the sweetest day of the year at Super Bowl 61 in Inglewood, California on February 14th. Then 300 pounds of opposing muscle sends $40 million of your salary cap into the blue tent, and your heart begins to break. This episode of Sports Triad examines the NFL quarterback depth charts. Welcome back to all our faithful viewers, and a heartfelt welcome to our new viewers for a new episode of Sports Triad, which we recorded on July 29th, 2026. Our all-star panel remains the same. No one's been voted off the island yet. I'm Ken Lance, your humble host, whose opinions continue not to resemble facts in any manner. Joining us is author, songwriter, and retired computer geek Steve Lance, who unbelievably continues to believe his opinions are based on facts. And finally, our award-winning sports broadcaster, and as we like to refer to him, the fastest man on radio, Tyler Lance, who has actually proven his opinions do resemble facts. As always, we start each week with Hard as Diamonds trivia question. Steve, I thought you had Tyler last week, but you came up just short. What do you have for us this week?
Well, I think I'll get him this time because this one is going to be a little bit tough. So, and it has to do with the NFL MVPs. And as we've talked about in the past, you know, the MVP should be called the quarterback most valuable player, as it's almost always given to quarterbacks. So the question is, what for each position for quarterback, running back, linebacker, and special teams, who was the player that last won the MVP for that position? So there's four of them. Man. And let's say we'll give credit if you get three of the four right. And of course, the bonus is to get all four.
We are stepping it up each and every week. This is good because it also brings up one of my sports pet peeves, which is, we at some point along the line, we decided that only quarterbacks are allowed to win the MVP. You know, if I was starting a sports league from scratch, I'd create some sort of best overall player award so we could get rid of the concept of value. But I better stop right there. Otherwise, we're going to derail the show of a 10-minute rant about the MVP award.
So let me remind our viewers, put your guesses in the comments. And at the end of the show, we'll see if Tyler can answer this or if I'll be 0 for 4 if he gets it.
All right. Big news this week. LeBron James breaks Cleveland's heart again and goes to the 76ers. What do you think about that, Steve?
Yeah, I guess I should have seen it coming. You know, I kind of knew it wasn't going to be the Cavs. But, I was a little surprised. Maybe not, because I guess the next best was Miami. But I think he wanted to go to a team that he hadn't won a championship. And that kind of disappoints me because it kind of takes the pressure off it. If he came to Cleveland or he went to Miami, there'd be a lot of pressure on him bringing in the championship. So I think he took the 76ers, saying, if wins, he's a hero. But if they don't get it, it's not going to be like, he came back to Cleveland and he couldn't do it. What do you think, Tyler?
Well, I'm going to both agree and disagree with your statement right there. I think the important thing that you mentioned is that he went to a place that he hadn't won a championship yet. And I think that's the biggest aspect of this decision. One of the interesting reports that I heard leak out was that he would have considered going to the Knicks, and they might have even been the front runner had the Knicks not won their championship this year. Like, I think he was really attracted to the idea of breaking a championship drought somewhere. That being said, I'm going to disagree with your point about the pressure of the situation. I actually think Cleveland or Miami would have been less pressure than going to Philadelphia, and here's why. It's because he's already won his 2 championships in Miami and his 1 in Cleveland. And if you think about it, let's say he had come back to Cleveland, he had played for the Cavs this year, next year, and, the Cavs had played well, but they didn't win a championship. everyone would still always say, well, he brought them the 2016 title that broke the 50-plus year championship drought in the city. He'll always be remembered for that. And the final 2 years, I think, would just kind of be a footnote in his career. People would say that he came home and he ended at home, even if it didn't end up in a championship. And kind of a similar story with Miami. They'd say, 4 of the best years of his career came in Miami. And even if he didn't win the title there, he came home and finished his career in a spot where he had some of his most iconic moments. But here's the thing now. He goes to Philadelphia, and let's say it doesn't end up in a championship. Now people are going to kind of point at that the same way they point at the Jordan Wizards time and say, oh, LeBron just hung on too long at the end of his career. And even more than the Jordan thing, people will just accuse him of being a ring chaser, which I've never liked that, because isn't that the whole point? Like, you want to go win a championship? I don't think chasing rings is a bad thing in and of itself. But now if he doesn't win in Philadelphia, people are going to remember at the end of his career, like, he accomplished all this stuff, but then that one final goal just didn't work out for him. So that's from the basketball standpoint. But I think there's still a lot more to be said about what this means for Cleveland and whether this was a good or a bad decision PR-wise. And I guess that's kind of where I'll kick it back to you as far as, what do you kind of feel this does for LeBron's perception and how people will sort of look at him of the way he's finishing his career in a new place?
Well, I think as far as Cleveland's going, I think it'll be the same. I don't think it will. I think Cleveland pretty much has accepted that he moved on. And, like you said, he came back, he gave us that one championship. And then once he moved to the Lakers, I think we were kind of, we knew the era was over. So I think coming back would have been more nostalgia than really he's going to bring another championship here. Although if he did that, it would have been incredible. But so I think everybody's going to be like, yeah, it would have been nice, but, hey, his era is over. But let me ask you something. The Sixers picked up Jaylen Brown, right? Was
Right.
Probably the clincher. Do you think if the Cavs would have picked up a player, of course there was talk that, they get Kyle back, but that wasn't going to happen. Do you think that would have persuaded LeBron to come to Cleveland if they would have gone out and got one more player?
I'm not sure it would have, to be honest with you. And I think the Cavs, cap situation wise, were so limited in what they could do. They would have had to have given up something big to bring something in. Like, for example, let's say the Cavs have been trying to trade for Jaylen Brown. They probably would have had to have given up Evan Mobley. And then does that just kind of offset each other? It's hard for me to think that the Cavs could have made the current roster a lot better than it currently is in order to bring in LeBron James. Obviously, him coming to Cleveland would have improved the roster, but it just seems like we would have had to have subtracted something big in order to bring something big in, just with how close we were to the second apron. So, that's that as far as what the Cavs could have done. I think the part that's kind of hard to wrestle with right now is there's a lot of appreciation amongst Cavs fans for the 2016 title and for, the great decade plus of basketball he played in Cleveland, obviously. But I think there's also a part that Cleveland always wanted LeBron to sort of love us back the way we loved him for all these years. And, it's his career. He can go play wherever he wants. I mean, I'm not saying he can't, but I do think there's an aspect of he always talked about Cleveland or nowhere, and that just seems to ring emptier and emptier the further we get away from that era, because ever since, that kind of became his trademark phrase when he came back the second time. And even in his return letter, he hinted at ending his career in Cleveland. And now it just all kind of seems like a sort of PR stunt. It's tough. It feels like in today's sports culture, you either have to absolutely hate a guy and just be against everything he does, or you have to, back up everything he does and support him 100%. And I feel like this is a situation where kind of both are merited. I think when LeBron comes back at the end of his career, they should retire his number. They should build a statue outside of the stadium. They should give him his due for what he brought here to Cleveland. But I think when he returns this year to Cleveland, when he's playing for the 76ers, he'll probably still get a decent reception, but I don't know if it should be that way. I think it should be treated more as, you chose a team other than Cleveland for a second time. The Cleveland or nowhere talk clearly that wasn't really what you thought it was, or wasn't maybe as genuine as you made it out to be. And now, you're basically saying, not only am I not returning home, but I'm saying I have a better chance of winning a championship if I don't return home. And I'm going to just throw the storybook ending, the nostalgic ending that I think, even if you didn't want LeBron to come back to Cleveland, I think everyone could have understood if he had gone back to Cleveland. But I think the hard part to swallow is now that LeBron is basically saying, we're going to throw all that out because that's how much more I think the 76ers have a chance to win it all this year. And I think that's something that you shouldn't just, I guess, excuse away if you're a Cavs fan. Like, you should be rightfully a little bit upset by that.
I think you hit a point there, like, and I feel like too, like, like, does LeBron really love Cleveland? Like, and I've thought about that, and I wonder if it's partly just his personality, like, because it doesn't seem like he's all in Cleveland. I mean,
Right.
You just get that feeling, but like you say, I mean, he made his decision, and he's done that before. He's made decisions before that. Let me ask you one more thing about LeBron, and then I guess we'll move on. But so obviously he's gonna be in the Hall of Fame. Which jersey does he wear?
I would hope it would be Cleveland. I mean, you look at the amount of time he played the most years in Cleveland. He spent 8 in Los Angeles. That was the second most. And, yes, he did win his 2 championships in Miami. And even in the best case scenario, I don't think he's playing more than 2 more years. He could only equal that in Philadelphia, even if he won both. I think it's got to be Cleveland. I mean, the thing I always go back to is some championships just mean more. And, Miami had already obviously won a championship in recent years before LeBron came back. And whereas Cleveland, I mean, first championship in franchise history, breaks the city's drought. Cleveland is kind of where he established himself originally. And not to mention, I think he would have won multiple championships in Cleveland had he not run into one of the greatest dynasties of all time. I mean, once the Warriors got Kevin Durant, Cleveland wasn't going to win any more championships with or without LeBron. So I think you have to consider the fact, too, he faced the Warriors 4 times in the finals, and I think that was probably the toughest adversary he ever had to play against in his career. And the fact that he beat them once is frankly incredible. But yeah, I mean, I know, I've got the Cleveland background on my screen. I'm a Cleveland homer. I think he should go into the Hall of Fame as a Cleveland Cavalier. I think that should be a slam dunk choice, no pun intended. I think some people might argue for Miami, but I think this is one where duration and overall accomplishments, goes over the 2 rings versus 1 conversation.
Yeah, I don't think it'll be Miami, but I wonder if he might Lakers jersey. I mean,
I just think of all the other players that the Lakers have had in their history, like, the Kobe's and the Shaqs and all the Magic Johnson, like all the legendary Lakers. I just wonder if LeBron would want to go into the Hall of Fame for a team that, he was clearly the franchise's most iconic player. Whereas, for the Lakers, obviously he was iconic, but I don't think he's more iconic to the Laker fans than some of those guys I just mentioned.
Yeah. Well, that would be the one that would really break our heart if he didn't go in as a Cav. So anyway,
I think that would be such a slap in the face for Cleveland. And as far as him going to the 76ers, I'm sure as an athlete, you always want to win. You always want to go to the place you think you're going to win for sure. But I have to keep going back to, I mean, you've won it all. You've made all the money in the world. Like, if you'd have come back to Cleveland, like, you would have been the man forever. And now you're the man, it's just an image thing. But again, I'm not a pro athlete, and the competitive juices probably pull you very strongly towards something that you think you're going to win at. So, but anyways, back to the quarterback depth chart. So here's the scenario. We're in week 4. You're 3-1. Your team's looking great. You're feeling good. And then your franchise quarterback goes out for the season. Can you still make the playoffs? So let's look at a few teams. So the Rams break the Browns fans' hearts with the blockbuster Myles Garrett's trade this year. They're all in. They think they can win everything. They're going for it all. Break down how they stack up, Steve.
Well, of course, Matthew Stafford is their 38-year-old quarterback and expected to start. But they did draft Ty Simpson, 13th overall out of Alabama. And so, the theory is give him time to develop, which, used to be common in the NFL, but it's become, when you take the first round draft quarterback, that's become less and less common. So my question is, Tyler, well, before we do the what if on whether the Rams still make the playoffs, do you think Simpson sits for 2 years on the bench while Stafford finishes out his career?
I think he does, barring a Stafford injury, obviously. The funny thing about Ty Simpson is I think the Rams were a perfect spot for him to land. And I still think the Rams shouldn't have drafted him just because, the Rams are clearly all in for right now. Like, you don't make the Myles Garrett trade. You don't make the Trent McDuffie trade. You don't have a 38-year-old starting quarterback if it's not all in right now. So I think they probably should have picked another position player with that first-round draft pick, but that's a whole other thing. But yes, I think the plan is let Stafford play out his career. Simpson can actually have the old school development and wait on the bench, and then hopefully he sees the field, 2 years from now, which I think for him he needs because he really only was the full-time starter 1 year at Alabama, and I think still probably needed a lot more development coming out of college.
Do you think Stafford's in it for 2 years, or do you think this is it for him?
It's always that storybook ending in sports where if you win the championship, do you retire? And I kind of wonder if Stafford and the Rams win the championship this year, maybe he rides off into the sunset. But I have a feeling if they don't, he'll stick it out until he turns 40. That kind of seems to be the magic number nowadays for the elite quarterbacks to try to stay into your 40.
All right. So I think I'll give mine first, and then you can give yours, Tyler. I think regardless of Stafford, I think the Rams definitely make the playoffs. Without Stafford, maybe not the less of a favorite on the Super Bowl, but I think they do it. What about you?
Yeah, the only thing that gives me pause is how tough their division is, but I think the Rams are so good. As far as making the playoffs goes, it almost doesn't matter who their quarterback is. Like, I think they can just blue chip their way to the playoffs. If Ty Simpson starts and he has growing pains, I think their defense is still going to be so good. And, they have so many weapons on offense with, Kyron Williams at running back and like Puka Nacua and Devontae Adams, a huge 1-2 punch at wide receiver. They'd find a way to win double-digit games and still get a wild card if Stafford went down.
Yeah.
All right, so now let's look at a quarterback who has a history of injuries. What do you have on the Bengals, Steve?
Well, of course, we're talking Joe Burrow. He's 29 years old. He was the 2020 number 1 overall out of LSU. Last year, he only played 8 games. I think 2 years ago, he also had an injury-prone season. And the people behind him is my favorite for the Hall of Fame that nobody else agrees with is Joe Flacco. And I'm kidding about the Hall of Fame, of course. 41 years old. And then Josh Johnson, also 40 years, and Sean Clifford, was a 5th round in 2003 out of Penn State and really hasn't seen any duty. So, number one, I think if he goes down, they don't make the playoffs. But let me ask you this, Tyler. If he goes down, do the Bengals go shopping?
I don't think they go shopping. I actually think of all the teams that are potential playoff contenders, I think the Bengals have the best backup quarterback situation. Like Joe Flacco came in last year and he cooked. And the Bengals lost a handful of the games he started, mainly because their defense is so bad. Like if the Bengals go shopping for anything, it should just be to continue to upgrade their defense. I have no concerns about their offense still producing if Joe Flacco has to come in and start a handful of games for Joe Burrow. I just think the other parts of their team are the parts that are a little bit questionable.
You don't think Joe Flacco at 41 is pushing it a little?
The age curve is a little concerning. I'd be lying if I said it wasn't, but I do feel the past few years, Joe Flacco has kind of showed himself to be a little bit of a weird outlier. I mean, 40-plus-year-old quarterbacks usually don't do great outside of Tom Brady. You know, Aaron Rodgers was mediocre last year, but I think Joe Flacco, he's good enough, you know. He'll make a couple plays that might lose you the game, but he'll hit on enough big plays where I think the Bengals can stay afloat if he starts.
Well, let me ask you this. You know, we have Kirk Cousins sitting over there in the Raiders in Las Vegas, and it seems that the Raiders drafted a quarterback this year. You think Cousins is going to become available should a major quarterback, go down?
I think he would be a kind of trade deadline type of quarterback candidate fill-in for a team. I was even surprised, to be honest, the Raiders are trying to make this a competition or act like Cousins is going to start in the first few games. I mean, we just talked about Ty Simpson sitting on the bench. This is a totally different situation if the Raiders. I mean, nowadays when you draft a quarterback number 1 overall, you're drafting him to play. And I'd frankly be stunned if the Raiders went any other way. I mean, I do think Kirk Cousins is a potential trade candidate. Maybe that's part of it. Maybe the Raiders are just trying to build his value for a midseason trade, and this is why they're talking about him potentially being the starting quarterback. But yeah, at this point, I think beyond the veteran mentorship, I think they'd get a lot more value just by flipping him to a team that gets a quarterback injury.
Okay, our third team, the Patriots, were the surprise team last year. They had a Cinderella run. What do you have on them, Steve?
Well, Drake May, 23 years old, 2024 number 3 pick out of North Carolina. Behind him is Tommy DeVito, 27 years old. He saw a little bit of action with the Giants. And then you have, Morton, who was a 7th round draft choice. I'm saying, Drake goes down, they give DeVito a chance. But I think here's another team that goes shopping if the quarterback goes down, and can they make it in as a wild card? If Drake goes down, the Bills win the division, and possibly they make it as a wild card, but I think their chances are slim at that point. Oh, and the only reason they have chances is because the AFC is nowhere near as tough as the NFC.
Right. I'm in full agreement with you on this one. In fact, I'd even go a step further. The Patriots are in big, big trouble if Drake May gets hurt. Tommy DeVito's a name that people know, but, he had a couple of games with the Giants, back a couple years ago where he was pretty good, but no one would know who Tommy DeVito was if he just didn't have a very stereotypical Italian-sounding name. Like this is a bad backup quarterback situation. I think if Drake May did get injured, the Patriots would definitely go out and try to get a Kirk Cousins or someone of that caliber on the trade market.
Let me throw in Watson. I know we talked last week or last episode, but are you still Watson's a no trade?
Yeah, so for people who maybe didn't know about this, we had a little conversation about the Browns quarterback situation once we wrapped up recording last week. And I believe you suggested, Steve, that maybe Watson could play his way into a little trade value and the Browns could deal him. And I'm going to say that is a 100%, 0% chance that happens. How's that for a weird percentage? 100%, 0% chance. But there is no chance that happens. And here's why. Even though the Browns are angling for him to maybe start the season as the quarterback, he's not going to get traded. And it almost has nothing to do with the salary at this point. The bad PR hit is still there for Deshaun Watson. If any team decides to trade for him, even if the Browns cut him tomorrow, there would still be a bad PR hit for a team that picked him up next. Not only that, but let's say by some miracle, Deshaun Watson goes back to his 2020 form and starts playing like Pro Bowler again, which I think I've been on the record saying I do not believe is going to happen. I have not seen any reasons to believe that he's going to go back to being a Pro Bowl or even a good quarterback. But let's say he did. Deshaun Watson would have to play so well that the Browns wouldn't possibly even want to trade him, for him to establish any trade value. So it's kind of a paradox in that way. Like the only way the Browns could trade him is for him to play so well that the Browns wouldn't trade him. So that being said, I just think the off the field stuff just lowers his trade value so much. The contract lowers his trade value. You wouldn't get anything for him. And if he had a 40 touchdown season this year, I guess, maybe you could trade him, but then the Browns wouldn't want to trade him. So there is zero chance Deshaun Watson gets traded. There's a greater chance that the Browns relocate and go to Baltimore and make a second team there, and then Deshaun Watson gets traded. That's how far I'll go.
Are you on record of saying that?
I am now, I guess.
All right, Tyler. Which team do you feel is most likely to fall apart if their quarterback goes down?
This is kind of an odd one to say. I'll give you one AFC team and one NFC team. And both of them are a little bit weird. You wouldn't think so right off the bat, but I'll say the Bills and the AFC. And I guess it's weird that I say that just because I think the Bills have a really good offensive line. I think the Bills have a great running game, things that would normally help a backup quarterback, but their backup situation is bleak. It's Kyle Allen, who, had a brief starting stint for the Panthers, and he was not good. And the past couple of years, he's kind of just been wasting away on the bench. Frankly, I'm kind of surprised the Bills don't have a better backup quarterback or a more experienced backup quarterback because they had Mitchell Trubisky for a few years, even though he's not on the Bills anymore. They're another team that if Josh Allen got hurt, they would have to trade for somebody. But if they were forced to start Kyle Allen, I'd go from thinking the Bills are going to win the division to thinking that they'll finish with a losing record. That would be a bad situation if Josh Allen got hurt, which it's surprising that he hasn't, frankly, of how much he runs and his physical style of play, but maybe he's just a freak in that way. And then the NFC team I'll throw at you that would be in a bad spot would be the Lions if Jared Goff got hurt. And their backup quarterback is Teddy Bridgewater, which normally that's kind of a stereotypical backup quarterback, your game manager, safe quarterback who isn't going to make a lot of big plays, but isn't going to make a lot of mistakes either. And if this was 2021, I'd be thrilled to have Teddy Bridgewater as my backup quarterback. But over the past 3 years, he's only attempted 15 passes. He's hardly played. He was coaching, I think, high school football at one point. And I just think he's been out of the game and hasn't started a game for so long that at his age and at this point in his career, it would not be pretty if he got thrown into a starting spot. So I think the Lions would be in huge trouble if Jared Goff got hurt.
All right. Well, that brings us back to the Hardest Diamonds trivia question. I hope you've been thinking, Tyler.
All right. Let me remind our viewers the question. And then, Tyler, I'm going to give you an option for hints if you want them, because my graphic that I'll be showing the viewers has some hints on it. Okay, so it's name the last player to win the MVP at each of the different positions. Well, the quarterback, the running back, linebacker, and special teams. The hint I'll give you if you want is the year that they won it. So let's start with quarterback.
Oh, yeah, I was going to say, don't give me the hint yet, because I think I can get at least a couple of these. For our listeners and viewers, I am not seeing the graphic right now, so I'm not seeing the hints yet. But yeah, quarterback's the one to start with. Quarterbacks are the only ones who are allowed to win MVP nowadays. Matt Stafford was the MVP last year. That's going to be the easiest one of the bunch to get.
Yep, you got it.
All right,
so then Stafford 2025. Yep.
So last running back to win the MVP, I believe it was 2012 or 2013. Adrian Peterson, the Minnesota Vikings running back, had his MVP winning season.
Yep, absolutely.
Are you starting to sweat, Steve?
Oh, he's only got to get one more, and he may do the circuit here. He may get all four.
I think I can get one more. So we're going to go over to special teams. That was one of the other categories, right?
Yeah, special teams. Yep.
I think I skipped over the linebacker. We can circle back to that one, but special teams. So if I recall correctly, this was a weird labor stoppage NFL season that kind of got interrupted. And the season structure is a little bit weird. And if I remember correctly, that would have been kicker Mark Mosley from Washington, who won the MVP early 80s, I believe, right?
Yeah, 1982. That was my one I thought I'd get you on. So you got the one I thought you'd miss, but there's still one left.
This one might actually be the one I missed. I might have to spitball for the linebacker here. There's a couple names. There's a couple names that are coming to mind. I say go ahead and give me the hint. I'm not sure I'll get this without the hint.
1986.
Okay.
Oh, got it.
86 makes me think of the 86 Bears, which makes me think of Mike Singletary.
Oh, no.
Oh,
Lawrence Taylor.
Oh, I should have known that. Yeah, I was thinking like middle linebacker, but yeah, like edge rushing, pass rushing linebacker. I should have gotten that one. That was good.
But you got 3 out of 4. So you get credit, you just don't get the bonus.
All right, so we'll take that. We'll call that getting on base for today.
Okay, I do have a bonus question for you, though.
All right, let's see if we can get a little redemption.
Once again, we'll go circle back to the old thing that the MVP is mainly the quarterback MVP. So going from 24 seasons, 21 to 24, 2024, there have been how many quarterbacks have won?
All right, so 2021 through 2024, you said?
Yeah,
Or-
so 24 of the past, I guess I should have put in 2025, but so of the past 25 seasons, how many quarterbacks have won? How many times has it been a quarterback that won versus another position?
So just to clarify, like for quarterbacks who won it twice, that would count as 2, right? That wouldn't count as 1.
Yeah, you're counting years, not people. So how many times has it been awarded to a quarterback?
All right. This is not what I know off the top of my head, but we're just going to spitball this as a guess. I'm going to say in the last 25 seasons, it's been a quarterback 18 times.
Nope, 22.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, only 3
That
times.
was worse than I thought.
Sean Alexander, Tomlinson, and Adrian Peterson are the 3 running backs that won it, that a quarterback did not win it.
And the wide receivers are still out in the cold looking for an MVP award. Sorry, Cooper Kupp. Sorry, Michael Thomas. Sorry, Jamar Chase. No MVP for you guys.
Yeah. I mean, it even becomes more incredible when you think you have to go all the way back to 1986 for it not to be a quarterback or a running back.
That is just wild.
Yeah, they got to change that award.
Yeah. We've kind of gotten to the point, too, where like a defensive player can't really win either for the most part. They kind of think of it as the defensive player of the year as your defensive MVP, and then the MVP is your MVP quarterback. Yeah, that's tough. I kind of think it almost just makes it easier for the voters just to try to think who's the best quarterback on a playoff team, and that's who's going to win the MVP each year. But it does make the MVP a little less fun when you always know it's going to be a quarterback. And, even a running back like Derrick Henry, who had a 2,000-yard season, can't win it, or even Myles Garrett, who broke the sack record, can't win it. I think it makes the race a little less fun.
Yeah. And, I mean, I don't know. Maybe if Cleveland would have made the playoffs, maybe Garrett. I still don't think Garrett would have got it. But, he might have had a chance if the Browns would have made the playoffs.
Yeah, it's just hard to usurp the quarterback who touches the ball in every play where, if you get 2 sacks in a game, that's a great game for a defensive player.
Well, very good. That's a wrap. Thank you, everyone, for watching and listening. Please make sure you like, subscribe, and share this episode. See you next time on Sports Triad.
3 lances on the line, scoreboards lit up early. We got games to unwind. From the bleachers to the back roads, we're calling every play. Who's hot, who's hurt, who's rising, and who just slipped away. Hear that crowd get louder, feel that Friday frame. We got boots on the side.